I pulled the bearing on this transmission case here, and let me see if I can get my little pointer here on it. It's like I said, it's small things that really stand out, especially when you're using a drive shaft like this one here, which is larger, has more torque. This is the main bearing race where the old bearing went, and they call it a race because the inner bearing races around the outer bearing, or this inner part races around the outer part is stationary. It cannot move. Now, if you have a spun bearing, what that means is that the whole bearing itself is moving. So you have all this mass that is moving around and around and around with the shaft right here, which is what will happen is you'll be driving your motorcycle and you'll develop a tremendous amount of heat very quickly, because this shaft is meant to go around this inner race and not the outer race, and that is what it's designed to do. Now, like I said, you have to take a look at every little thing. This is the old bearing right here, and if you'll notice, there's little lines that run horizontally, and there's also little lines that run horizontally in this cleaned up bearing race. That tells me it's spun. I think it's spun. This is the new bearing here. You always want to get genuine Honda parts if you can, because they're built really well, and you're going to know what you're going to use here. So I'm going to take this new bearing, and what I will do is I will pound it in there with a big flat washer, and then what I will do after that is I'll take my pulling tools and I'll pull the gear through there. But I'm going to put a little bit of JB Weld right on the outside here, just to see that if I ever have that problem in the future where I have to take this off and check it, if my little tiny JB Weld marker is broken, then I'll know the bearing is spun, because the outside should not spin. That's the only bearing you usually replace on the transmission. This is a blind bearing here, which means you can't tap it out from one side. You have to put a bearing puller in here, which it spreads out a little bit. Then use a slide hammer and go bang, 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 and it pulls it out. So that's where I'm at so far. Over here with the clutch, I put on a stock clutch. I want to see if it'll work. Cleaned up the housings, re-oiled everything. I checked, here's that bearing we talked about, the inner race bearing. You always want to check this. You can't really see on this inner bearing, pulley bearing. You want to put your fingers in there and see if there's anything broken, because you can't see it. You also want to move this around, see if it moves freely. And remember, any bearing that's shot is going to cause you problems, because your bike is only as strong as your weakest link. And I noticed here on the clutch drum that, now this is after I've already taken 2000 grit and polished it up, I always take a little bit of sandpaper and I get the glazing or any kind of oil or anything that's on there off every time I rebuild it, because it's just something I do. Matter of fact, it's like this wheel here. This is a brake drum lining itself, and I will take the 2000 grit, or you can take 1000 grit or wherever you want, and I just clean it out. That makes sure I got all my crap off there when I go to put it back together. So that's where we are right now.